Recently, on August 6, 2016, we celebrated the 30th anniversary of the Metroid franchise. And here's how Nintendo decided to celebrate.
Happy birthday to me.
So since Nintendo isn't celebrating, what better way to celebrate the Metroid franchise than to throw Samus a birthday party? Yeah, get that music going! Oh yeah!
That's sweet of you, really. But that's not necessary.
Oh yeah! So good! So good!
You're not even getting it in your mouth.
Samus! Chug, 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 chug!
This is getting out of hand.
I like the way you look. That's what she said. Samus! Metroid! Metroid. Baby Metroid. Baby Metroid. After nursing a killer hangover, I figured we'd dial it back a bit in the celebration. And it's time to deliver your birthday present, Samus.
Ooh, what'd you get me?
A review of Metroid Zero Mission for the Game Boy Advance.
Is anybody gonna buy me that pink leotard and green hair dye I've been begging for since the 80s? I'm bringing it back, damn it.
With the current video game industry supporting re-releases and reboots so heavily...
No! God, please, no! No!
Sorry, I get a little bit carried away with that one. Anyways, we can thank Metroid Zero Mission for getting a jump start on proper ways to reimagine a groundbreaking title into something that both commemorates and enhances the original. Released in 2004 for the Game Boy Advance, this was Samus's final 2D adventure to date, and yet, despite Nintendo's lack of interest in providing another Metroid in the two-dimensional style, Zero Mission delivers the ultimate swan song for this aspect of the series. Man, I've been trying to get the word swan song into a review for ages. I want to remind everyone who is watching that this review will be a heavy comparison to the original game. So, if you want more in-depth thoughts on the first Metroid, head over to my Metroid revamped review. So, how do you reinvigorate a game that many sequels afterwards have surpassed without losing the core original experience? I think that's the question that the developers sought to answer. After all, Metroid has some pretty big high jump boots to fill. Well, plot-wise, the game remains fairly familiar. The Galactic Federation ship is robbed by space pirates, and Metroids, the jellyfish-like organisms that can drain the life from any life form it touches, are captured. Space pirates plan to morph them into biological weapons of mass destruction and then set them free on their enemies. Meanwhile, the Galactic Federation discovers that the space pirates are hiding out on the planet Zebes, whatever, and they send a bounty hunter named Samus Aran after them. What's different here versus the original is that where the game ends in Metroid, a whole new experience opens up, with the entirety of the story told with gorgeous cutscenes throughout the game. But whoa, we're getting way ahead of ourselves here. First off, you can choose a difficulty of easy, normal, or hard for the first time in the series. This is designed so that enemies do more damage when attacked. All the basics are here from the original. Samus can collect power-ups to enhance her abilities and weapons. Using a modified and updated version of the Metroid Fusion engine, this game allows Samus to stack beams on top of one another, allowing her to use the Ice Beam, which freezes enemies, and Wave Beam, which can cut through certain types of walls at the same time. This was always a huge problem for me in the original, as the game forced you to get the Ice Beam in order to beat the game no matter what you did, which was unfortunate because I really enjoyed using the Wave Beam. Samus can also unlock abilities that are a welcome addition to this experience, such as the Wall Grip, or also known as the Power Grip, allowing you to latch onto edges and pull yourself up. After playing Zero Mission with this ability in particular, I feel that it's almost a necessity for the franchise. There's also these strange power-ups that are hidden in various Chozo statues, which allow you to unlock certain paths that you couldn't previously access, but at the same time the weapon's usage remains a mystery until later in the game. Movement in Zero Mission is much smoother here than in the original. Samus's jump always felt so floaty, and while I really like the movement in the original game, it feels slippery, as if you were actually on a planet in outer space. But at the same time, it didn't feel tight. In this reimagining, you feel like you're in control more, and have far less limitation. Directional pad movement is also much greater when it comes to pointing your arm cannon, thanks to the ability to point diagonally, both with the D-pad and with the shoulder buttons. Gone are the days where aiming up, left, and right were the only option. You can also jump up and shoot down while midair, which is a huge help. As to be expected, everyone's favorite two mini-bosses return as allies to the Space Pirates. Fighting Kraid and Ridley is a much different experience than in the original game. For one, they have been redesigned with a more modern Metroid style. Kraid no longer shoots tiny needles, and he isn't the size of, well, you. Instead, he takes on his Super Metroid form as a giant hulking beast of a monster. And Ridley is no longer a bulbous-headed alien with a weird smirk on his face. He retains his look and feel from Super Metroid as well, though I will say he's very agile and, in my opinion, the tougher of the two to defeat. There's other mini-bosses that flesh out the experience more, something that makes the original title feel empty in comparison. The original game definitely feels archaic after playing Zero Mission, which allows players to make mistakes. Unlike the first game, which felt more like an experience than a video game, Samus had the possibility of getting stuck in certain places, and with no other recourse, gamers had to reset the game and start over, or go back to a previous password they saved. In this latest incarnation, level design is the key focus, with the rooms feeling much more cramped in the redesigned classic rooms, but done so that it feels more stylish. Save spots are a new, very welcome addition in the game, making up for the relic known as passwords. However, there are rooms that provide a much greater scope of the planet Zebes, whatever. One example is the location of the Power Grip. Once acquiring this power-up, a tower fills the almost vacant outdoor-style room, filling its massive area, giving the room life. Metroid Zero Mission tells players where to go based on a checkpoint system that is, at times, unavoidable. Empty Chozo statues will lay lifeless and blocking certain spots. The only thing that makes the path open up involves Samus curling up into her morph ball mode and plunking down into the statue's claws to get a health and missile refill, along with a cursor being placed on the map as to where to go. Now granted, people like speedrunners and hardcore map studiers have probably torn the walls of this game apart, and they may prove me wrong in some portions of the game. But compared to the original game, Zero Mission remains a more linear adventure. In the original Metroid, gamers are plunked down with no direction. Fun fact, I had no idea that many people beat Kraid before Ridley, but the first game allows gamers truly non-linear traveling. You have no idea where you're going. Many rooms look similar to each other. As I said in the Metroid NES review, the game is as much an adventure as it is a force of solitude and loneliness. With Zero Mission, levels are designed to engage players as much as challenge them. Metroid on NES had missile power-ups in much easier to reach locations. Sure, they were hidden, but they weren't intensely hard to locate. It was mostly consisting of bombing everywhere until you found an upgrade. Zero Mission amps things up by making players work harder for that challenge of getting all the upgrades. I mean, seriously, look at the insanity that is getting this power-up. It's not an easy task. And believe it or not, this isn't even the hardest item to get. let's discuss some of the newer abilities. I've already gushed enough on the power grip, so we'll move on to the charge beam. Carried over from the Super Metroid and Metroid Prime games, Samus can charge her shot as usual, but can also use it while in Morph Ball mode, as well as hurting enemies while somersaulting charged up. Super missiles, power bombs, and speed boosting should be no stranger to most Super Metroid fans. Zero Mission's choice of attacks feels more rounded and makes Samus a more formidable protagonist. What really engages me in Zero Mission is the return of fear to the series. Being scared of certain elements in the series was channeled throughout the entire franchise, be it the Metroid's level of intensity in the first two titles, the level of intimidating detail of baddies in Super Metroid, the SAX hunting her down in Metroid Fusion, or the immersion of first-person traversing in the Prime series. Zero Mission continues this path by keeping Metroids coming at a breakneck pace. While the Mother Brain fight feels too easy this time around, once Samus escapes, you find a whole new mission unfold. I'm sorry, who?
Who what?
Who do you fight?
Mother Brain?
Don't you mean Mother Brain?
I'll never be rid of that damn Captain N show.
Samus is attacked upon fleeing Zebes, whatever, and though at first glance it looks like she escapes, her ship is shot down. Apparently she crash lands back on Zebes, whatever, again, this time in an entirely new area that veteran Metroid players had never before experienced. Because her ship was destroyed, she had no power suit, and thus Samus is shown for the very first time in her Zero suit, a skin-tight blue latex form of apparel. Nintendo attempted to shock players who thought the remake was finished when Mother Brain is defeated and the planet is vacated. While the spoiler effect of learning Samus's gender isn't something gamers fret on nowadays, we've never really been allowed to fully control the woman outside of the suit. Here, we're forced to go on the defensive, something Metroid fans really need to get used to. Yeah, I'm looking at you, other M haters. Here we see a woman who is brave, headstrong, and vulnerable, predating other M by about 5 years, but that's for an entirely different discussion.
Obvious review plug.
Hey, I gotta get him in here somehow! Samus is now knee-deep in Shozoidia, a brand new section of Zebes, whatever, gamers had previously never seen. It seems that the Space Pirates base is located directly on old Chozo property, and since Samus was raised on this planet previously, she has a connection here that, although loosely explained via cutscenes, still manages to pull off a fantastic ending. I won't spoil it for those who haven't played, but the entire experience regarding story is a fantastic entry into the series. And how about those graphics, eh? The level of detail on the Game Boy Advance is immensely impressive here. What I like is that every room has character, despite the layout feeling somewhat familiar to the original. I feel like I'm actually on a believable planet here, graphically, instead of a mess of alien colors. Though I felt a deeper connection with the original, I can remove those rose-tinted glasses and appreciate the level of depth that Nintendo created on this little handheld adventure. However, the glasses go back on regarding the soundtrack. While longtime Metroid composers Kenji Yamamoto and Minako Hamano make their best efforts to replicate Hirokazu Hip Tanaka's legendary compositions while adding their own signature flair, it feels too static and tribal at times. I can appreciate this attempt at recreation, but to me, Tanaka's work still reaches beyond video game music, playing out more like a video game experience unto itself. It's also worth noting that Zero Mission has tons of replayability. After beating the game and unlocking hard mode, the journey continues by allowing players to try to improve their collected items. This, paired with the time that it takes to beat the game, will unlock different portraits of Samus after the game ends. There's endings for completionists and speedrunners alike. Furthermore, beating the game once allows players to play the original Metroid in full emulated glory. This also kind of defeats the purpose of purchasing the NES Classics version of the game that was released as a standalone for the Game Boy Advance. So, we've covered all the bases, as well as all the intrinsic ins and outs. But can Metroid Zero Mission be the better of the two games? Well, here's the original complaints that I had regarding Metroid's debut in my review of it. Metroid on the Nintendo is not perfect. There's no built-in map system, there's tons of graphical sprite mismatches, and the entire thing is extremely confusing. The password system is archaic, and it's a moody, punishing game. I think it improves in every way, personally. That's not to discredit Metroid. I'll always appreciate Metroid for its nostalgia in my own personal gaming history. It's a game I can beat because I've memorized it, but that doesn't mean it's a better, more player-friendly, engaging experience. It's less accessible, but more enchanting. Legendary blueprints to a technically superior finished product. But sometimes we have to let the past be the past. That's why I'll be looking forward to the future of the series, to the next 30 years worth of Samus's adventures. Metroid Zero Mission is a fantastic attempt at recreating a legend. Between the understanding and delicate care Nintendo performed while using the original template, they've crafted something much more player-friendly, and although this can at times be its downfall, it shines brighter than the original because it feels more complete. It's a deeper, richer journey that allows gamers the opportunity to not only see a side of Samus they've never seen, but also to experience a more vibrant, more complex universe. Zero Mission is further proof that remakes can make a great game greater.
Wow.
What?
Well, it's just really cool that somebody cares about my games that much.
Listen, despite the fact that Nintendo's put you on the sidelines with Metroid Federation Force, we want you back in the saddle for a 2D or 3D adventure. And I think that Nintendo knows that fans want that.
You think so?
Definitely. So hurry up and blow out that candle so we can eat that birthday cake. But first, there's a little song that we have to sing. Happy birthday. Constructive comments are always appreciated, and if you're looking for more Metroid goodness, check out my Metroid Other M review, which is quite controversial on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you can check out Pixeltunes Radio's Metroid episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.